Good afternoon, guys. Looking at the tape, obviously what continues to jump out, is a lot of the self-inflicted. You play a good team like that, lose a turnover battle, and have the kind of penalty issues that we have, that we had. Ultimately, never really give ourselves a chance to win the game, despite there were some good things on the tape as well. Execution-wise, when we were able to not stop ourselves. Baltimore made some plays, but we've got to get right to work on the tape. That's what we're doing now with the players, and make sure we, as I told them, the frustration of yesterday needs to be fueled by the conviction and the determination for tomorrow, and having a really good week of prep and making sure we solve some of the things, both with real communication and dialogue of what happened, specifically in regards to the cadence. When you look at it, 5 of those false starts coming on 1st and 10 in many cases, with some continued, runs called and chances to stack some positive plays in the run game. And then you're 1st and 15 against a team that plays some unique things and challenges on 3rd down, kind of tilts what you want to do as an offense and how we wanted to play the game and away from us. And then the remaining 3 came on said weighty downs, 3rd downs, and 4th down. So critical. We had a couple defensive penalties, a pass interference, and then the rough in the passer I thought was an unbelievable, rush by Dallas. Great game there, working with, one of the inside guys and gets there with, a ton of force. Just got to make sure we don't, fully, the body weight rule is what it is, and that was the exact reason for that rule. So just some, real momentum changing plays. I thought our defense did a lot of really good things against a very talented offense, and then obviously the special teams turnover at that point in time in the game was very much an incredibly shifting play to kind of change how the duration of the game played out. But I've got to do a better job coaching this team. Clearly, when you have, pre-snap issues like that, both in game, not just relying on position coaches and Wes to get things fixed and flip over to the defensive side. I got to be directly, involved with some of those things, and watched them all on the TV copy, listened to them all. We have the benefit of kind of going through each one as its own thing, and don't know if there's necessarily the smoking gun that maybe I thought yesterday. It's a variety of a couple things, but we've got to make sure we fix it, and we will. Looking ahead, I did want to update you guys. Got some good news on JG, Jonathan Greenard. See how he does throughout the week. He's sore today, but we'll see if he can get some time in this week on the practice field and potentially be available for this Sunday. But I do think we avoided a long-term injury with him. Theo Jackson cleared the concussion protocol this morning, so he should be a full participant and be back this week. Josh Oliver should return to the practice field and work his way up to hopefully giving us some snaps on Sunday. And then Ryan Kelly, we're still figuring out exactly when it takes place, but barring anything changing here, anticipate maybe opening his window at some point in time soon here. You also may see some guys limited or get a day here and there, but it's that time of year as we kind of shift into November, into December, where we want to have a fresh team as much as possible for the game. But NFC North game at home, we're 2-0 in the division. Bears are playing really well. Ben's doing a great job. DA's doing a great job with that defense, forcing a lot of turnovers. That's been a problem for us. So we need to make sure we put together a plan that limits their ability to do that, and then we've got to get the execution out of all 11 to make sure that we're not doing anything from a self-inflicted standpoint to limit. Yesterday having over 6 yards of play and sustaining a good start again, and just not able to sustain it with the kind of consistency that we need. And to me, that falls directly on me.
Kevin, with Ryan Kelly, just how is he doing, and then what can you share about what those conversations are like with him about coming back?
Yeah, we, when we put him on IR, the phrase I used for him was I wanted him banging down my office door to get back on the field, and he's doing really well. He got some really good work in on the side field last week, really no issues whatsoever, and that was kind of the hope, knowing that the anticipation was, we would hopefully open his window at some point and get him back practicing, and then see, how he responds to that. Actually getting on the practice field, getting in the huddle a little bit. But he's doing really well. He wanted to go through a full weekend, stayed at the hotel and everything on Saturday, kind of getting back into what that rhythm kind of looks like. So very encouraged with where Ryan's at, and I know he is too.
Kevin, as you go through the play calling sequence, when you have those false starts and it's 1st and 15, how much does that change the likelihood of running in those spots, knowing down a distance being where
Well, I think the thing you run into, Ben, is like you're going into a 1st and 15, so you're really kind of limiting, the under center stuff. The defense can then take a little bit more risk, whether it's pressures into runs or forcing you to have to maybe get to a secondary run because of some of those looks. So a lot of times what you do is you activate some of your gun runs, but then, once again, those plays can be determined a lot by, some triggers of whether we're going to have a post-snap response and maybe throw the ball anyway on a bubble or some sort of variation to kind of have a solution for a run problem. So a lot of times you're just trying to get back on track to, like in many of the cases, we were able to get to a 2nd and 8. After being 1st and 15, or immediately, we completed a ball to Jordan Addison for 20 plus on and called the same play that we had called on the first down sequence. But the disappointing ones are the ones where you've stacked a couple good runs, and in some cases explosive runs, 10 plus, and then you're just trying to continue to see if you can keep that early down, not only efficiency, but you're stealing chunks of yardage with those plays. And now you get into 1st and 15, and you have to, there's a lot more variables come up from a standpoint of solving problems that could either create more negatives or limit your ability to use tempo, things that then help you kind of tilt the scales back to even though you got to get 15 instead of 10. But yeah, looking at the stat line and all those things, would have loved to have a sequence of the end of game where we could stay true normal football and be able to keep running it, because I thought the guys did a good job. We got off to a slow start in the run game, but we're able to offset it with going 3 for 4 on 3rd down early on in the game, put the ball in the end zone. Thought we had a chance on that 3rd and long play where we threw the ball back to JJ, kind of got the whole defense flowing, and we just had to make one block and didn't make it. And that could have been 4-4 to start the day on 3rd down. Then you get the run game going. But like I said, those are all what ifs and shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and we did not.
Kevin, what do you like most about Jaylen Naylor? He's really been calling in some unbelievable catches lately.
I've tried to make any opportunity, and you guys have done a good job noticing him before yesterday and asking me about him throughout the year. What does he mean to our offense and the role he's playing? Jaylen basically had the same game he's had, throughout the season. He just, got some big targets and some big moments, and continues to just impress me with his physicality on early downs in the run game, his ability to, he had some really good blocks on Kyle Hamilton fitting in there in the box in the run game, and then just, you saw the speed on the first, the 3rd down long ball, the run after catch, turning that into a 60-plus yard gain, the touchdown on the 4th down, really where we kind of got an unscouted look. I think they'd run that coverage one time all season compared to some of the other things they were running, and that's what happens when you're in a 4th and 5 and put yourself in a long sequence and go backwards self-inflicted wise. You could get something like that, and I thought JJ made an incredible throw and heck of a catch by Jaylen Naylor. Still, would have loved to get more out of the target share to some of our other players, trying to get those guys going, but yeah, I thought Speedy was huge for us, really taking advantage of his opportunities.
Kevin, with 22 incompletions, I was wondering, where are some of those easier completions to TJ that don't really see a lot of anymore.
Yeah, I thought I thought we had a chance at the one, the third down conversion to Naylor over the middle. TJ was really the primary out on the red line, kind of simulating a screen that we had run early in the game to Aaron Jones against the Lions, got the defense to bite. JJ was playing fast and just got off of it, but he ended up converting to Naylor over the middle. But I think the biggest thing is TJ's a major part of what we do, and a couple of the false start penalties. He's the primary in those kind of more manageable D&Ds, and then you start thinking about 10 plus and protection and trying to convert on some of those throws. But it's no excuse. We got to get TJ involved in the game more. We got to find him. Because you're absolutely right. We need those plays. They've been a huge part of our offense since we acquired them, for sure. And then when you're looking at some of the block shots, I think we had 4. All 4 of those were, looking at, backside in cut to Jordan Addison's going to be an explosive. Jordan probably in the red zone on the last one is going to be a touchdown. If not, getting back to TJ, on the backside of that progression, and just some of those things where, when you're not totally synced up and you're kind of reaching a little bit at times, it felt like we were pressing once we got down, especially. And then, when you consider we had none of those pre-snap penalties in the first quarter, but then they go 2-2 and 4 the rest of the way, just kind of putting ourselves in a tough spot that gets you out of those D&Ds where TJ's always been pretty significant for us.
Aaron, as you went back through the tape, what did you think of JJ's footwork in the second half?
Yeah, I thought like what happens to many quarterbacks as games went on, there were some inconsistencies there, but still there was some playmaking and some competes that I think are pretty unique to JJ. So if we can just get, I thought, throughout the early part of the game, the deep ball to Naylor, the reset back where we might have had TJ, but he's, compact and in the pocket, little push there. Thought he had some good pocket movement. It just, like with a lot of young quarterbacks in this phase of where he's at right now, where we're, getting a lot of these snaps on the fly. It's not just that subtle climb back to that safe spot, because I did think we had some good pockets for him. It's the subtle climb and then, coming to balance instead of 2 or 3 climbs, and then all of a sudden that push or the block shot comes into play. So I just think it's all normal, in my opinion, part of kind of where he's at and his development, which is something that's very encouraging. The great part is seeing the competes and the will to win and his ability to play that style of game that we had to play, especially late. But that's not the game we want to play right now. And I got to do a better job keeping us in that game. And whether it's, I'd spent a lot of time thinking about that 3rd and 1 call, late into the evening to try to, zero coverage Justin Jefferson on, in a one-on-one situation. And there's a lot of 100 times you call that play, you don't think, that 1 out of 99 where he gets tripped up and ends up being an interception going back the other way, not getting to run the ball on 4 downs. As the head coach, you get to make decisions, and I made the decision we were being 4 down even before that 3rd and 1. At that point in time in the field, and came back to bite us for sure in a huge way. So we wanted to, take some shots in the game. JJ throws the deep ball very well, and we didn't really get the value received from it in the football game outside of, that 3rd down throw to Jaylen early in the game.
After thinking through that, would you still do it again, or is it
best receiver in football in a one-on-one with a run call? You feel good about on 4th and 1. I would not change that call.
And on Justin, you talked a lot about this year, especially about him being your sort of energy guy, leadership. I'm just curious how you kind of saw his body language on a few of those plays, especially after the interceptions.
Yeah, I think there was some frustration and maybe with the not having a couple calls go his way from a referee standpoint, but that's all part of the game. and got frustrated there a little bit. He's so competitive. He wants to make those plays, especially when he is. I think he had 12 targets in the game and wants to make the impact. We've got competitors, and sometimes that thing can present itself differently when you're talking about this guy to the next guy, but I have no concerns with Justin. If anything, this time of year I am always thinking about, he plays a lot of snaps, and just where can we find those times, maybe even throughout the week, to make sure that we're taking care of him so he can be at his best on Sundays as we roll into kind of the second half of the season here. But no, whether it's the chances to get him the ball in his hands, I thought JJ made a great throw on another one where it was a bang play at the goal line, and we just didn't connect, and it was kind of like that in some critical moments of the game. But we'll get back to work, and nobody will lead the charge more than Justin.
With JJ's development, how much are you finding yourself kind of reminding him, like, throughout games or the week, to not press or to kind of stay calm? He brings so much intensity. A lot. So
I think it's a factor. I really do. Because he's so competitive, and he's he's a high football IQ guy and wants to make the play. And as many young quarterbacks have to learn over time, sometimes I thought he had some great checkdowns. One to Jordan out in the flat on a tempo play. One to Aaron Jones on a play-action play, out of the 21 grouping, where he just kind of gets to the top of his drop, feels the defense lifting a little bit, and we end up with 12, 13 yards on a very simple play. And it's just production moving the ball forward, where it should not be a worldly lift, moving heaven and earth. The defense plays what they play. Sometimes there's some throws there down the field. Sometimes there's great opportunities to put the ball in play, check down wise, that are either right in front of you, or you've got to work through a progression, when protected. And there were some really good examples of that too. It's just when you're in, you get 17 of these things, and you're in an NFL game, that how the circumstances of the game play out, many of which we directly let ourselves into. You got to play that game to try to win, and that doesn't always puzzle piece fit hand in hand with where you would like the game to be for the ascension of his development. But I still think with all experience being good experience for him right now, you'd love to make them all after wins, but we got to do the things required as a team. And then JJ's going to make a lot of those plays for us. And like I said, the competes, his willingness to lay it on the line and try to make the plays are very much things we knew about him. But now it's just about continuing to carve this thing and shape it in a way where we're helping him become the best version of himself, both short term and long term.
All right, Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell, as he's starting to kind of wrap up his Monday, his tradition of having a Monday press conference. We are going to take a break.